Hare Krishna. So today I wanted to record an offering for Srila Prabhupada. I haven't written one, and after attending the temple program and listening to, I was tuning into some of the Vrindavan homages, I was feeling inspired and I wanted to share something. The Auckland temple program is pretty big, so usually I don't get a chance to speak. Last year we attended the Christchurch one and it's a lot smaller, so I got a chance to speak. But yeah, I think sharing is an important part of bhakti, and I've been around the movement a few years and feel like doing more of that would be good for my Krishna consciousness. So I also want to record this without any editing or cuts because I don't want to trip over myself and overthinking what I'm saying and whatnot. So because it's not a temple program, I'm not pressed for time, I can elaborate a little further. So I guess I'll start with Mangalasharan of some sort. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Srimati Krishnasdaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachari Shatarane. So I've just listed down some notes of a few things I want to cover. So today is a very special occasion. It's the appearance day of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. And that's an important occasion when we can reflect on what Prabhupada means to us and have a health check on our own state of Krishna consciousness. At least this is how I personally view it. I really get a lot of value from listening to other devotees' homages, it's like shining a light into the inner devotional lives of other devotees, which is very inspiring, and it's also very grave, very sobering. And yeah, these special occasions are important because, at least in my case, I started an electrical business 3 years ago, and it's kind of been consuming me, especially lately with all the admin and the admin has to be done, otherwise we don't get paid, and then businesses, it just has to go on. So this special occasion is an important chance for me to focus on Krishna consciousness a bit more. So it's an important time also to think about what Prabhupada means to us. So many other homages, people have shared that. So I guess I'll go over a few concepts of what Prabhupada means to me. I guess the key word here is shelter. All right, I told myself I'd record this without any editing, but I paused to get some tissues and gather myself. So yeah, shelter, the Sanskrit would be Padashraya, the shelter of Prabhupada's lotus feet. So Prabhupada, every now and again, I'm struck with some deep emotions of how Prabhupada has saved me. And I think if I was to try to articulate that, it would be this deep feeling of being trapped in the material ocean for so much time. And Prabhupada coming to rescue me through great personal inconvenience. The Christians have this idea that God suffers, but as devotees, we don't really buy into that. We think, Krishna is transcendental and aloof from material suffering. But this idea that the Christians project onto Jesus as, an incarnation of God, is that he's come and suffered for us. He's taken on the burden of the world in order to save us. And I think we have something along those lines, and the idea of the Acharya, of the Acharya who descends from the spiritual world in order to save the conditioned souls. And in our case, in our current time, we have that in Prabhupada. He came, he went through so much difficulty, so much personal inconvenience. He suffered health problems, so much management stress running the movement, and he was completely unwavering and spared no difficulty, spared no expense. Okay, I've paused it again. Went and did a couple of housekeeping things, got the washing in the dryer. So, yeah, Prabhupada, that intense emotion is about feeling that Prabhupada is my shelter. And yeah, I spoke about the Christian concept and how we have something along those lines, and the idea that the pure devotee suffers out of compassion and in order to save us. So I've done a lot of intellectual outreach work doing on my Theology Unleashed channel, trying to give rational arguments for Krishna consciousness, articulate our view in a Western philosophical framework. But I think there's something nice about just being in an environment of devotees and just letting it be irrational. And when I say irrational here, I don't mean that there's actually logical contradictions or anything. I just mean that we're not worried about satisfying the skeptical part of our brain, that we're just absorbing the emotions. And there's just something beautiful about relishing that this skepticism in the West, it's been a big hobby and interest of mine to answer skepticism, to give it satisfying answers, to debunk it or whatever, but that's not really where bhakti takes place. Bhakti happens in the heart. It's about our emotions being directed towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, loving exchanges with the devotees, service, and so on. And you just can't get that with, skepticism or engaging skepticism. It's kind of just an intellectual activity, like jnana yoga, I guess. It is a kind of yoga. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the wise worship me through their intelligence. So it is an important service for devotees to study about Krishna consciousness and find ways to articulate it in the West. It's an important kind of outreach, but yeah, it's just so nice to be in the Sangha of devotees and just switch that off and just let the emotions take the steering wheel. Because really, I think that's what bhakti is about, is developing those God-conscious emotions, taking inspiration from the bhakti sentiments of senior devotees, advanced devotees, the acharyas. So what's the other thing I wanted to talk about? That was one of the homages I was listening to today, from the Vrindavan homages, I think. There was a devotee talking about the first New York Rath Yatra, and he was saying how he personally was engaged in organizing that Rath Yatra. And Prabhupada told him, have you got a permit? None of the devotees organizing it knew they needed a permit to do that. And they were amazed that Prabhupada knew. But, I mean, from my perspective, it's probably just because all the devotees back then were very young and didn't actually know a lot about how the world worked, whereas Prabhupada was a seasoned businessman and had a lot of world experience in India and a little in the West, so knew these sorts of things. But also there's always, of course, an element with Prabhupada of a spiritual intuition inspired by Krishna. This devotee was sent to acquire the permission, and apparently the mayor had an edict that there was to be no more processions along, I think it was Fifth Avenue. But somehow they got the permission. They're like, oh, there's just one caveat. You have to go and get the police superintendent, I think that's the phrase he used, the title of the policeman, to sign it. And he insisted on taking it personally to sign it. Got there and the secretary was saying, this isn't going to happen, this mayor, yada, yada, yada. And he just walked right past her and, he went through all the security and everything. But ignored the lady the receptionist, and went straight to the superintendent and said, here's this document for you to sign. I'm just reading into the context because he didn't explain the whole situation, but I assume the police superintendent knew who was coming to see him and why, because it sounded from the exchange like he already knew what was happening. And he handed him the piece of paper, and the policeman said, I don't know why I'm doing this, and signed the piece of paper and gave it to him. So, and this reminds me of, is it Shamasundar Prabhu? He's got so many stories of just the magic of how things would just come together. Like one day they didn't have enough money to pay their bills, to pay the rent for the center in, I guess, was it LA? And they were outside, and just like $20 bills just started blowing in the wind, and they just walked around collecting this money, and it was enough that they could pay their rent this month. And that's just one example. Shamasundar Prabhu has, I don't know how many volumes of his book he's got out now, just telling all these stories of just like magical serendipity. It's not coincidences, it's divine arrangements coming together to make things work. And I was thinking, there's something like the idea of a Jedi mind trick going on, where Prabhupada could just charm people in such a way, or, win their hearts over in such a way that maybe you could think of it like a Jedi mind trick, where, this police superintendent doesn't know why he's signing this, but somehow or other he's inspired in the heart by Krishna to facilitate Prabhupada's plan of having a Rath Yatra in New York on 5th Avenue. So that's just a few things I wanted to share about Prabhupada and what he means to me. I don't know if I want to share this online or not, but I think it's been good for me to articulate these thoughts and feelings. If you like this sort of stuff, let me know, and maybe I'll do more of them. So my name's Arjuna, I live in Auckland, and maybe I'll catch you in the next one. Hare Krishna.